evening, viewers, and a warm welcome to the news at 10, read to you by Izoto Adlamini, alongside Nomakabiso Ngambule. First, let's take a look at our leading stories tonight. The Honorable Deputy Prime Minister says the government is reviewing the operations and mandates of departments under her office. 11 individuals have been arrested for contravening foot and mouth disease regulations. The case involving Babane Highlanders and their former director Peggy Rapas Melane, who filed court papers last week seeking reinstatement as the club's manager, has been postponed. The news in detail. The Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Senator Thulisile Dladla, says government is reviewing the operations and mandates of departments under her office in a move aimed at improving welfare for vulnerable groups. The Deputy Prime Minister was speaking in Parliament on Monday.
The Deputy Prime Minister's Office Senate Portfolio Committee Chairperson Senator Prince Mphathwa, seconded by Senator Chief Mvimbi Mathe, moved for the adoption of the Deputy Prime Minister's debate.
Kulenzawo lekuthiwa kuse halfway house baba 106 lebafakwa ku halfway house kule reporting period Madam President kulakala kusinabo banakekele lenza batabo disability ke wasibuyela DPM webus awucha nato yathi sebenda
naso kuhamba isikhathi aveluswe mntana and then ke kanze ukuthi vele basekwana lokugulala kanjani ngoba lo asebambophile so udle isikhathi lesizwe awudlala umntana nako lokusiphelile umhlonishwa DPM cha utakulungisa ukuthi manje ibe khona le machine ukuthi before ngiboshwe angasitested umntana ukuthi bambamba wabani.
The Senate debated the committee's report.
Phakamele kubonga mina umsebenzi welitiko la kamhlonishwa DPM le office siyambona naye kunene ugijima ushiya inyosi ufika lonke live.
Ngibonge lokho ukuthi eMaswati ayachubeka ekakhulu bantu labakhulile kanye nalabo labakhobatekile litiko liyachubeka libapha impilo lengcono.
Usisiyana usivele bantu labahluphekile bayakhelwa tindlu lale tindlu takhiwako tiba tindlu letinhle nje impela lokusho si akwendiwa nje uspendiwa nje shelter noma just decent shelter tiba tindlu letinhle letemukelekako.
The Deputy Prime Minister Senator Thulisile Dladla tabled responses.
Besithite si reviewer ema action plans ethu awu onke lama departments. Yes. Otherwise strategic plan is 2023 to 2028.
The Deputy Prime Minister further pleaded for the Senate's support in ensuring quality life for all eMaswati. Reporting, Samgasiwe Kozas, Muva Shongwe, and Skumbuzo Dlamini, Parliament.
The Minister of Agriculture has given a warning to eMaswati who defy regulations aimed at preventing the spread of foot and mouth disease. During a press conference held at the ministry's head offices, the minister announced that 11 individuals have been arrested in connection to defiance of the regulations.
According to the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Mandla Chawuka, the ministry is disheartened about the certain individuals who showed defiance to the rules put out to curb foot and mouth disease. Chawuka says because of this, they are looking at increasing the fine of defiance.
An emerging trend which is making us very worried. We are seeing a lot of incidences whereby animals are coming in and out of the red zone. Firstly, there's a group of people who incidentally get into situations whereby their animals stray into these zones. And then they go out there and collect them, taking them back into the green or clean zones. What we are requesting them to do is to make sure that when such an incident happens and they find those straying animals, please, do not just collect them. Alert the right authorities. We even have a call center number which you can use so that you can be assisted in terms of how you can get that animal back home, but without bringing FMT into your community.
On another note, the minister highlighted that for full vaccination, Cattle should get 2 vaccinations. Hence, the ministry on the first phase vaccinated 45,761 cattle, and they are currently on phase 2, of which they have vaccinated 20,000 of the previously vaccinated cattle on phase 1. Reporting is Satabile Mamba and Samgelsiwe Koza Babane.
The Eswatini Electricity Company's Managing Director, Ernest Mkonda, says since 2020, the company has been recording a decline in profits and has made a loss of 200 million emalangeni. Mkonda was speaking during a meeting with the Editors Forum.
The Eswatini Electricity Company hosted the Editors Forum to unpack current performance reports and future plans. EEC Managing Director Ernest Mkonda in his address said the company has been recording a decline in profits since 2020 and has made losses amounting to 200 million emalangeni.
The future doesn't look so good. We have projected negative cash. That means that we are going to be borrowing money in order to provide the service. We are not collecting enough. We are spending over 200 million per month to buy electricity, and the revenue is not sufficient, because when you consider all procurement costs and this, you are left with less than 20 million to provide for other expenses for the organization. From COVID onwards, we started to decline, and the reason for the decline, having done a geoscientific study between September and December last year, the results have demonstrated that we have at least between 40 and 80 megawatts of geothermal energy available in Eswatini.
The Eswatini Electricity Company also says the country can be energy sufficient through the generation of geothermal power and has spent over 300 million emalangeni to conduct a study to assess this possibility. Reporting Samgelsiwe Koza Mbabane.
The Eswatini Editors Forum says they are concerned about how Eswatini Electricity Company will manage power generation amid financial losses and reliance on short-term trade agreements. The editors were speaking during a meeting with EEC's management.
Electricity is becoming almost impossible to buy. In a commodity that is in high demand.
Markets. Platform. Lengasisida nangabe bonakala ukuthi emavele amaningi ayafaka le platform. Nombuto wami uthi how deep is our integration kulama power pool markets?
Where are we going to get the money? Because it has been proven that geothermal is very expensive.
We've had 25 years to work on being independent. So in those 25 years, what have we been doing?
We're moving from ESCOM, having signed with Eswatini 25 years to 10 years. Didn't we get to negotiate 25 years no more?
MD presented a not so healthy financials at the company. And at the same time, Gofunani provided, you have these big plans.
Do you have a time frame of that when you're saying it's going to get better going forward? Is it within the 10 years that you have agreement you have with ESCOM?
Khona period sometime lapho khona igas behamba khona kwanza ukuthi 2 amalanga uyaphela ku the gas. Then it makes me to ask a question. The agaba khona, but you see at some point about skills like EEC.
Eswatini Electricity Company Managing Director Ernest Mkonda, together with the company's operational manager Vusi Gama, gave responses.
The units are going down because the electricity prices are going up, and the time value for money is diminishing. Your 200 emalangeni, even if you were not buying electricity, your 200 emalangeni will not buy you the same basket. Okay. Normally,
when we started, we were actually looking for 25 years, but we then agreed on the 10 years. The reason why we agreed on the 10 years is because the environment is yashinja. So we didn't want to lock ourselves into a long-term fixed contract because as the environment is changing, you will realize that Eskom also depends on other countries within the southern region to supply itself with power.
Part of the presentation made by EEC says Eswatini is now at 88% of Emaswati who have access to power and that the country will be energy sufficient by 2030. Reporting Samkasiwe Koza Mbabane.
The Eswatini National Association of Teachers has condemned the actions of teachers who engaged in romantic relationships with school children, stating that the organization does not represent them even in their legal matters. The association made this statement following remarks by the Minister of Education and Training Under Secretary Schools Manager Lungelo Nhlengetwa, who revealed that from 2022 to 2025, 4 teachers have been dismissed after being found guilty of engaging in relationships with school children.
Some of the teachers accused of being in a relationship with learners were involved with pupils from primary schools. The Minister of Education and Training Under Secretary Schools Manager Lungelo Nhlengetwa explains the cases committed by the teachers.
It can be sexual relationship, it can be love, it can be abuse, because sometimes you find that the learners are the ones who agree to have sexual relationship with the teacher, and the teacher gives them money or so. And in such cases, you find that it has been a consent of the 2 parties. But our policy as a ministry states that a teacher cannot be in love with a student. We have about 3 cases that are pending with the Teaching Service Commission that are for teachers who have been found to be guilty of having love relationships with students. And we have 4 teachers who have been sent home for that act. And we also have teachers who show poor conduct in schools. So about 5 at the moment whose cases are in my office, and we want to deal with them.
The Eswatini National Association of Teachers Secretary General Lord Vilagati says anyone in a relationship with learners must lose their job, not only teachers.
It is against our code of ethics as SNAT. We as SNAT were considering these school-going children as our children according to the local parentis law. These are our children, and the code of ethics are very clear that we should not be in an intimate relationship with the student. However, we are also appealing to the members of the community, those who are employed and those who are unemployed, from practicing such acts. These acts are not good. They are not good for the children. They are not good for the future even of the children. And it also teaches bad morale to our children.
The Minister of Education and Training says if a teacher is found guilty by the Teachers Service Commission of being in a relationship with a learner, their cases will be referred to the courts so they can be prosecuted and sentenced to imprisonment. Reporting Fortune Dlangamandla Mbabane.
The Eswatini Competition Commission has reviewed and approved both domestic and international measures and acquisitions of a transactional value of over 400 million emalangeni in this first quarter of the year, which is from April to June. The Advocacy and Communications Manager, Mangoba Mabuza, says careful consideration is always taken when these measures are approved.
The Advocacy and Communications Manager stated that thorough consideration is undertaken prior to the approval of any measure or acquisition in order to safeguard fair competition among local enterprises.
In terms of domestically, the measures that were reviewed had a transactional value of about 11 million. And in terms of their combined assets or annual turnover, it's over 2 billion emalangeni. Even though it's the transactional value of 11 million is relatively modest, but in terms of the footprint that these companies that were involved in these transactions, they've got a huge footprint in the economy. And in terms of the international, we had about, in terms of the transactional value is about 465 million emalangeni. And then in terms of the combined assets or annual turnover of the companies or the entities involved, we are talking over 200 billion emalangeni.
Economist Sanele Sibiya described the decision as a positive step by the Commission.
We trust that since the Eswatini Competition Commission has done the due diligence and they've looked into the impacts on the markets of these measures and acquisitions, so we do trust that going forward, what we're going to have is potential, improvements in economic growth and economic, and economic activity. As you know, we do expect these companies to start gaining what we call your economies of scale, while ensuring that competition is maintained in the overall economy of Eswatini.
Some of the acquisitions and mergers are Trapez Software ULC of 100% shareholding in Bright House Automotive Pty Ltd. The transaction, which involves the acquisition of 100% shares of RMV Investments Pty Ltd. By the trustee for the time being of JNCR Trust, and the last one is the transaction which involves the acquisition by Insengagwadi Farm Pty Ltd. in Old Mutual Swaziland Agri-Fund GP Pty Ltd. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
Businesses have been actively involved in national competitiveness efforts with a focus on how they can engage government more effectively to help drive exponential economic growth. Musa Masego, Interim Director of State Business Relations, shares insights on the recent engagements held with the business sector, highlighting opportunities for collaboration and strategic alignment.
This is part of our efforts as the Secretariat of the State Business Relations in just improving the effectiveness of private-public dialogue in Eswatini. So part of the objectives of the workshop was to equip these private sector associations with the tools that they need in order to produce quality position papers, but as well as just helping them identify strategic issues of national importance when it comes to competitiveness issues. People who are perhaps close to this process might then be aware that we are really working with 3 main technical working groups which were commissioned by His Excellency the Prime Minister earlier this year. One of them just looking at issues of SME development. We are also looking at one which we deemed or we called mega projects, just looking at the large capital infrastructure projects. And then we have one that's just looking at cross-cutting ease of doing business issues within the country. So all of those will be convening as of this month to actually then present plausible recommendations to the National Competitiveness Council on how perhaps we can improve the competitiveness of the economy. The State Business Relations, as it is, really looks at issues of strategic importance when it comes to national competitiveness.
And now in our sports news. The case involving Babane Highlanders and their former director, Peggy Rapasimelane, who filed court papers last week, is seeking reinstatement as the club's manager has been postponed. The case was heard at the High Court before Judge Titus Mlangeni. The matter will now proceed on the 21st of this month.
Former Mbabane Highlanders director filed an urgent application at the High Court with his grievances being the termination of his contract and his request to be retained as the sole director of the club. The matter is being heard in court with Simelane as the first applicant, represented by Sifiso Jele of SM Jele Attorneys. In this matter, the first respondent is the patrons of Mbabane Highlanders, the second respondent is Shoni Mkhize, the third respondent is Mbabane Highlanders Football Club, the fourth respondent is the Premier League of Eswatini, and the 5th respondent is the Eswatini Football Association. Simelane has stated that the termination of his contract was not done properly. The case was presented before Judge Titus Mlangeni with a ruling expected on the 21st of this month. Simelane's representatives will file their papers on the 15th of this month, this coming Friday, after which Shonim K's representatives will reply on the 18th next Monday. The final verdict is expected on the 21st of August. The patrons, through Robinson Bertram attorneys, stated that the termination of Simelane's contract was done appropriately and was due to breaches of certain clauses in the contract. The patrons also stated that they saw in the newspapers that Simelane had resigned. Simelane is also seeking financial compensation of 1 million emalangeni for what he claims to be the breach of the agreement. Reporting, I'm Linda Dlamini, Babane.
Well, viewers, before we come to the end of our news tonight, let us once again take a look at stories that are making headlines in tonight's news bulletin. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister says government is reviewing the operations and mandates of departments under her office. 11 individuals have been arrested for contravening a foot and mouth disease regulations. The case involving Babane Highlanders and their former director Peggy Rapa Simelane, who filed court papers last week seeking reinstatement as the club's manager, has been postponed. Well, viewers, that's all I have for you from our news desk. Thank you very much for staying with us. At this point in time, allow me to leave you with the weather update for tonight and tomorrow. Otherwise, for myself, Zodwa Dlamini, and the rest of the transmission team, good night and God bless you.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m, where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Push the tempo, 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 push the tempo.
Hey Eswatini, are you ready to experience TV like never before? From the 29th of August to the